You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
On yesterday's show, I took some time to debunk Dr. Christian Thurstone and his reefer madness, and I took him into hour 2, doing a little look at the marijuana withdrawal, and I wanted to come back to that for today's rant for the people who are hour 1 subscribers. And it had to do with this statement that Dr. Christian Thurstone, again, one of the leading rehabbers in Denver, had this to say, quote, "I don't think in the mainstream scientific world of addiction that there's debate anymore that it's addictive. It works on the same part of the brain as all other addictive substances, and there's an animal model of marijuana addiction now. We know that it's not just psychologically addictive, but physically addictive. And studies by Dr. Alan Budney at Dartmouth have characterized a physical addiction to marijuana. Marijuana withdrawal is clinically equivalent to tobacco withdrawal, and anecdotally..." Yes, I know. Marijuana withdrawal is clinically equivalent to tobacco withdrawal, and anecdotally, in our experience, we see adolescents coming into treatment extremely addicted to marijuana. They're dropping out of life, giving up on school and families to pursue their marijuana addiction. Really? You want to stick with the whole marijuana withdrawal is clinically equivalent to tobacco withdrawal, huh? Really? Do you know any cigarette smokers who've tried to quit? I know a lot of marijuana smokers who've tried to quit. They have to. They have to stop for a while to try to pass a P test for a job, or, they're going someplace, they're traveling somewhere where marijuana smoking is inconvenient or highly illegal, and they just stop. They go to these places and they stop. It's just no big deal. Tommy Chong of all people, quit smoking pot for 3 years. You'd like to have some pot. But if you don't get any, it's like, well, I'll get some when I get some. It's no big deal. So, you know me, I tend to look stuff up. And he mentioned this Dr. Alan Budney. Yes, guy who researches marijuana named Budney. Okay. So Dr. Alan Budney at Dartmouth. And I decided to take a look at his research. And you can do this too, folks. Just go to Google and type in PubMed. P-U-B-M-E-D. PubMed. It's the National Institute of Health's publications medical database, basically. Anything that's been published for peer review, it's gone through the National Institute of Health, is available there. Now, you can't usually get the whole thing. There's like a subscription. You can subscribe to it and get the whole thing, but you can at least get the abstracts and the conclusions, which usually tell you a whole lot. So going to that, I took a look at Budney's research, and prior to 1999, I didn't find him doing much research on marijuana withdrawal. He was doing a lot of studies on cocaine dependence in the 1990s. And I would theorize here that, looking back from the age of Reagan, when Reagan was in power, the whole crack cocaine scare was a big deal, and they were funneling a lot of grant money into cocaine studies. And I imagine by the time the grant money makes it through the pipeline and everything, it hits in the 90s. So I can see why he'd be doing cocaine work, because that's where the money was. As we get into the 2000s, of course, with 1996 passing medical marijuana, the federal government needs all the ammunition it can bear against the popularity of allowing cancer patients to use marijuana. So that's where the money flows in the studies and the research grants. At that point, 1999, we start getting this marijuana withdrawal research from Dr. Alan Budney. So here's the path of this. In 1999, he studied 54 people seeking marijuana rehab, and he had them answer a 22-question quiz, which is basically, it's the marijuana withdrawal symptom checklist that he invented, that was modified from a scale that he had used to research cocaine and tobacco dependence. Because, drugs are drugs, right? All right, so from there, that started the ball rolling as far as, there might be something here, something I can get some more grant money from. So in 2001, he observed 12 pot smokers, 12 pot smokers who smoked for 5 days and then quit for 3 days and then smoked again for 5 days and then quit again for 3 days, right? The idea here is the first 5 days, you get your baseline. This is how they feel when they answer these questions, this little questionnaire. Then you make them quit, and you make them answer the questionnaire. And then you let them smoke again and answer the questionnaire. And then you make them quit again and answer the questionnaire. And then you can compare, did it move, did it change, what's the statistical significance, and so forth. So, from these 12 people, what he determined was that there was a strong association that those who were in marijuana withdrawal had withdrawal discomfort, craving for marijuana, decreased appetite, and sleep difficulty. Now, I actually have the data. You know me, I like to look stuff up, and I like to show it to you. So this is the actual data, one of the tables from Budney's information, the ratings for the marijuana withdrawal checklist. And there's also, you can see baseline 1, abstinence 1, baseline 2, abstinence 2, right? That's, when they were smoking, when they weren't smoking, right? Strong evidence, moderate evidence, weak or no evidence based on the various symptoms and the ratings that they got on a 0 to 3 point scale. So you can look that up. It's on my Pinterest account. It's also attached to this post on radicalruss.com if you want to look at that for yourself. But I'll summarize this for you. They found the strong association of marijuana withdrawal. There was withdrawal discomfort, craving for marijuana, decreased appetite, and sleep difficulty. That sounds kind of scary, except when you look at the actual data. When the pot smokers quit the first time, the abstinence 1, their withdrawal discomfort ranked a total of 8.8. Oh no. God, that sounds awful. 8.8 on a scale of 1 to 10? No, folks. 8.8 on a scale of 1 to 30. This is a 30-point scale, right? So they didn't even crest 10 on a 30-point scale. 8.8 was how awful and how uncomfortable it was to be without marijuana. 8.8 on a 30-point scale. Now, for my cigarette smoking friends out there, if you've ever tried to quit and you've had to quit for 3 days straight, could you rate your discomfort on a scale of 0 to 30? And just let me know in the chat room if that's, anywhere near 8.8. I don't know. I've never smoked tobacco, so I don't know. Now, for the rest of the symptoms, when you take a look at all the symptoms of withdrawal that they made them rank, and they had them rank, craving for marijuana, and, did it make you have a fever? Did you get sweaty? Did you have tremors? Any of those kind of things, right? The symptoms that ranked the worst, when they ranked these symptoms, they got to rank them on a scale of 4, basically. 0 was none, like no tremors at all. 1, mild. You got mild tremors. 2, moderate. Oh, I got moderate tremors. And 3, severe. Oh, I got severe tremors. So out of that ranking scale, craving for marijuana, the worst symptom, didn't even break moderate. It came in at 1.9. Decreased appetite came in at 0.9. Sleep difficulty, 1.1. Irritability, 1.2. Strange dreams, 0.9. Nervousness, 0.8. And restlessness, 0.8. Are all barely mild. I had mild sleep difficulty. That's your marijuana withdrawal syndrome. I had mild nervousness. And the physical symptoms, when you started, tremors and sweating and fever and all that, barely cleared 0.5, if at all. Some of them were 0.1. Statistically not even in the ballpark, right? So half mild on the physical symptoms. So it seems that this withdrawal that we're talking about is somewhere between mild and moderate for some people. And remember, this study was on 12 people. Also, I got to question whether or not you can even call some of this withdrawal. When someone rates that they're having a 1.1, a mild reaction with sleep difficulty, or a 0.9, for decreased appetite, are those really withdrawal symptoms? I mean, we don't call it withdrawal if a crippled man stumbles when you steal his crutches. We call it cruelty. How many of these marijuana users are consuming cannabis to treat those conditions, like insomnia or anger management or depression or anxiety or attention deficit or whatever? If so, should we be any more surprised that when you take pot away from a insomniac, that they have difficulty sleeping? Should that be any more surprising than, we take an antidepressant away from a depressed person and, oh no, they got depressed. Well, they're having antidepressant withdrawals. No, you took their medicine away. So Budney continues this research. Now that was back in 2001, right? 2001, we've set up that there's this mild withdrawal in some psychological symptoms for a few people that use marijuana. Okay. So based on all of this, by 2006, Budney's got this established that there's this cannabis withdrawal syndrome. So how would a medical professional think about dealing with a syndrome that's so devastating that most of its users rate most of its symptoms as mild? Hold on to your hats, people. Give them a Marinol pill. Seriously, I shit you not. In 2007, Dr. Alan Budney researched whether giving people oral synthetic THC might help wean them off marijuana by alleviating the cannabis withdrawal syndrome. Budney summarizes the results as follows, quote, "The lower dose of THC reduced withdrawal discomfort, and the higher dose produced additional suppressions in withdrawal symptoms that such symptom ratings did not differ from the smoking as usual conditions. Minimal adverse effects were associated with either active dose of THC." End quote. Whoa! What do you know? When you give someone a high-dose THC pill, they report the same effect as smoking as usual. Whoa! How much grant money did you get to figure that one out? Oh, the other nice thing to figure out, THC in a pill form gives you minimal adverse effects. Good thing that the people don't get addicted to THC when it's in a pill form, or else we'd have to let them smoke pot to alleviate Marinol withdrawal syndrome. Jeez. All right, so that's the look at Budney's research. You can find all of this. I've got the links to the actual studies and everything up at my blog at radicalruss.com. And we've got a little time here left for me to debunk a couple of other things from that Dr. Christian Thurstone. One of the things he says, and I love hearing this one, this is a quote from Thurstone. "We know that there's been an increase from about 2% THC a couple of decades ago to more like 10% THC now. And in Colorado, it's probably even higher than that." Yeah. Couple decades ago. You remember that awesome 2% THC weed we were smoking when Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre dropped Doggy Style? Yeah, I remember. Rolling down the street, smoking ditch weed, sipping on near beer. Yeah, laid back with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Oh my God. All right, one more. This one's from also from Thurstone. "I work with adolescents and young adults, so for pretty much 99% of my patients, marijuana is still illegal. Amendment 64 didn't really change anything in terms of their legal status, and fewer than half of our referrals are court-referred. The majority are not." And that was him rebutting my stats from TEDS A, the treatment episode data set, which is the data set of publicly funded rehab centers, which represents 58% of all rehabs total. Okay. And in that data set of publicly funded rehabs, it's a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 people sent there by the court for every 1 person who chose to go to marijuana rehab. Just for marijuana. We're not including other drugs or alcohol. 4-to-1 ratio. Now, when Thurstone says that fewer than half are referred to the court to his private rehab, I trust that. Because private rehabs cost more money. You got to be a suburban family with some nice insurance to be able to get your kid into Dr. Thurstone's rehab when you catch him with a baggie of weed. So, yeah, I believe that, but when you say fewer than half are court referred, I'm going to imagine that number's got to be somewhere between 40 and 49%. Because if it was somewhere in the third area, you'd have said less than a third. If it was somewhere around a quarter, you'd have said less than a quarter. So let's say 40% of your patients are sent there by the court. That would be 2 court-referred people for every 3 people that are choosing to go to your rehab. You can't afford to lose those 2 court-referred people and continue to pay for your kids' college funds. I've actually done the math. If the ratios work out from public to private equally, then you would have to have 9 self-referrals for every 2 court referrals in the private sector, just to balance it out, just to make it a 1-to-1 ratio. Nobody should be forced to go to a rehab for their use of drugs unless that use of drugs has led them to do a criminal activity, like theft, like assault, like, harming other people. Harming yourself, and I'm not saying using marijuana is harming yourself, is not a crime. Hey, for Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. We'll be here for hour 2, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you